So far, we've explored various synthesis techniques. It's time for some samples. Let's insert Sampler module. And what's the best way to start than trying a few random presets? There's over 1,000 presets with samples already available for you via the MSoundFactory Essentials pack. Then you can certainly use the Monastery Grand Piano, for example. So let's see how the sampler works. The two essential panels are in the bottom, Regions and Samples. A region is like a container for samples and has a range of keys and velocities to play. In the easiest case, there's just one region covering all MIDI keys and velocities. That would mean that this single sample would be used no matter what the user plays. The sampler will pitch shift the sample. How? Root and fine-tune parameters define the pitch of the sample itself. If this would be, say, a trumpet playing C2, then I'd need to set the root to C2. Usually the sampler does all that automatically. Now let me start with a clean instance of sampler. If you want to load your own samples, simply drag and drop into the Regions panel or use Menu, Import Audio Files. The import window will be displayed with several options controlling how to detect pitch, for example. The defaults will usually do the trick. The import created one region for each sample and covered the entire range of MIDI keys. I can select a region by clicking on it. Then I can move and stretch it both horizontally and vertically. Vertical axis defines the velocity range. Each region can have as many samples as you need inside it. The samples in the selected region are available in the Samples panel. Usually there'll be just a single sample. I can delete the selected sample using the Delete button in the title. That makes the region empty so it won't generate any sound. Similarly, I can use the plus button to add more samples to that region. When more samples are available, the Samples selector is enabled and a random one is played every time. Alternatively, you can select which one to play using a parameter, but that's more advanced. Each sample has start and end markers with obvious meaning. You can also activate looping, and that makes loop range available as well. Finally, you can make the loop seamless using crossfading, and that activates one more marker. Each sample can have level, panorama, high-pass and low-pass filter envelopes. To access it, select it and enable it. Note that this will certainly eat some CPU. Finally, there are advanced settings for each sample. The sample selection panel actually belongs to the region and defines how the engine selects the sample to play if more than one is available. Sample settings panel contains the parameters edited by the markers, such as loop start and loop end, but provides additional features controlling the way the samples are played. For instance, the loop direction. The playback mode is also interesting. By default, the sampler manages the playback automatically, going from start to end with looping and crossfading. But you can switch to manual, in which case you can literally control the playback position. Let me try an LFO. Now that you know how the engine selects the sample to play, you could also ask how the engine selects a region in the first place. That's controlled by the region selection. By default, the engine selects a region depending on the key being pressed and the velocity. But there's more to it. The selected region is marked for each note in the regions panel. Now, what if I use the pitch panel to increase the pitch by 3 octaves? It selects the same regions, and that doesn't sound like a piano anymore. So I set the key selection to frequency. That makes the sample selection ignore the note I press and follow the pitch of the sound that should be played. But that's not the end. What if you're using an MPE controller, or a glide, or just a pitch bend with high range? Imagine you play something and pitch bend it 2 octaves upwards. While such a thing cannot be done with piano, you may imagine other instruments where it would make sense. And it would be cool if it would work with piano anyways, right? So I can enable the follow pitch bend option. And switch time controls the crossfade time between samples. Pitch bended piano. How cool is that? You can also control the velocity. By using one of the custom modes, you can literally define the velocity by something else, like a random, for example. I was playing the same note with the same velocity. Finally, we should check the regions menu. There are many handy features, from deleting everything to sample cutting utility. We'll get to it in the next tutorials.